Will Terry Francona help the Cincinnati Reds exercise some Brewer-sized demons? I don't know.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into a Locked On MLB crossover between the Locked On Reds podcast and the Locked On Brewers podcast, getting you set for the 4-game series up in Milwaukee between the Redlegs and the Brew Crew. We are talking Cincinnati Reds and Milwaukee Brewers every single day because we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Chuck Freimund covers the Brewers on Locked On Brewers and covers them for pre and post game radio show. He's going to be down at the ballpark for this series. Steve and myself, we're lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans that have been podcasting about the Reds for like a combined 1,400 years. Okay, maybe take the 100 off of it, but 14 years for sure. And we are excited to see this series because it's time for the Reds to get right a little bit. Really hoping that happens because, quite frankly, Chuck, it's been a little bit gloomy here soon. I know that the Brewers pitching staff hasn't had the best start to the season. Boy, oh boy, this Reds lineup outside of one game hasn't either.
Well, the Brewers have a penchant for like getting into a freeze as well. And by the way, great to be on with you two guys again. Yeah, both you guys, man. I love watching you guys all the time when we're done with our games. And I'll tell you what, the Brewers can have a penchant for struggling on offense. Yesterday, barely got by 3-2 extra innings, scored 5 runs the day before. Off to a little bit of a slow start offensively. There's a number of guys struggling. So we could have another 1-0 game on our hands. Just imagine the matter of who's going to win this. I want to know who Steve's got in the back of his Cincinnati Reds jersey. What's that? Would it be Rose, Morgan?
No, so I learned a long time ago. Because the Reds don't keep anybody anymore. All of my jerseys have my name on them.
Oh, they do.
Number 19 with my name, and not 19 because of Joey Votto. This was my number first. I just let Joey wear it. So that's why.
Well, guys, four game series coming into Milwaukee here, and I was telling you guys before the podcast, it's a good thing that there's a retractable roof on AmFam Field because we might not be playing this weekend because it is so cold outside. Temperatures are in the 30s. By game time tonight, it's supposed to be below the freezing mark, and so we'll be in the comforts of the nice conditions of AmFam Field.
I'm really glad that with those temperatures and given the propensity for people to get hurt when it's cold, I am glad these games are occurring in the Mall of Milwaukee. I'm really excited for some indoor baseball. You can run into the Orange Julius in between innings and get loaded up, maybe hit the DQ for a blizzard. Things will be great up there in Milwaukee.
Well, that's
the DQ. All right.
The DQ. You gotta love that. Free advertising there. You've got to love baseball in the Midwest in April because this is exactly what it is. Had it been in Cincinnati, it's in the 70s here, and it's raining cats and dogs, and I don't know that they would have even got the series in because of how horrible the weather is supposed to be this weekend. That's why the roof kind of makes sense a little bit in some cases. I'm looking forward to this series, though, Chuck, because the Reds, man, they have been ran over by Milwaukee these last couple of years. There's just no other way to say it. As much as I would love to sit here and try and be cocky and say, yeah, baby, we're back. It's time for the Reds to get on top. 7-19. That's the record that the Reds have against the Brewers in the last 2 seasons. They were 3-10 in 2023, and they were 4-9 in 2024. And it's all about the fact that the Brewers have just shut down the Reds lineup. Reds hitters have hit 201 in those last 26 games against the Brewers. It's just been dominance by Milwaukee.
Well, I'm going to look at it like we're 19-7 against you guys. That's the way I'm going
to. You're having fun.
I'm looking at it, but I didn't realize, Jeff, it was that much that dominant. I remember the Brewers started off the season last year playing the Reds, and they got fat early against them, and that kind of set them on their way. Right around early part of April, the Brewers had a good start against these guys. I think it took 3 or 4 in an early season series, and that kind of set them on their way. But as you guys both know, baseball, it can turn in a dime. You can go from one day putting up 15 runs, and the next day you can't get out of your own way. With the Brewers pitching Nestor Cortez in game 1 on Thursday night, I've never seen a pitcher struggle like that the way he did in Yankee Stadium on Saturday. He gave up home run balls on the first 3 pitches, on his first 3 pitches of the game. I mean, that's amazing. It was just,
it's almost like his opening day start got torpedoed.
It did. It got torpedoed and bamboozled.
Don't tell him Ellie uses that bat too. He's been using that bat too.
Yeah, I see 44's off to a pretty good start again.
Yeah, he started using the torpedo bat a couple of days ago, and then he hit 2 home runs, and so I think he's holding on to that for a couple more days.
Oh, jeez.
You know, if you had told me that, if you'd asked me to guess it without looking it up, I don't think I would have guessed that we had won 7 games during that stretch you were talking about, Jeff. The Brewers have really just been able to get into the heads of the Cincinnati Reds players. And I don't know, I think it's part that this team has been in such flux, and there's been quite a lot of turnover. And part of it was they were young, and part of it was just David Bell just getting owned on a regular basis by the Brewers. But I'm feeling good about this series. You look at where these 2 teams are right now. They both come into this 2-4. The beginning of this year has not gone the way either team really would have liked. And you look up and down the Brewers roster right now, and there's a couple stat lines that just give me a little bit of reason to be optimistic about how the Reds will hold up. And number 1 is the fact that Red Killer, Red Annihilator, Red Destroyer, Christian Yelich really isn't hitting very well right now. In his first 6 games of the season, he's amassed a mighty slash line of 118, 318, 294. So he really hasn't got going at all. I renew my call to the Reds to not throw him a single strike the entire series. Not one. You can flirt around the edges. You can brush him back, but nothing should find the strike zone. Keep Yelich cold, because he just has a knack for just destroying this team and then getting everybody else going at the same time. So for me, the key to success in this series is to not let Yelich have one single pitch that he can hit.
Well, you talked about those numbers with Yelich. 2 of 17 so far, came up in a pinch hitter role in the 7th inning, bases loaded, 2 outs, and down on strikes. Just kind of the whole stadium was on fire, thinking Yelich was going to come through, and down on strikes, and the Brewers eventually won the game. But yeah, he's off to he had a back season. He had back surgery in the off season. Well, toward the end of last season, I should say. And he had a great spring training, just off to a slow start, but he's got the ability to turn around. He's 33 years old, and he's a good player. Now, the guy who we should worry about is Jackson Churio, who just started the heat up yesterday, the first home run, and also had a big double in that game. The guy who always worries me is number 44 with the Reds, man. I've told you guys that many times, that whenever he gets to the plate, I start to sweat. It can be 31 degrees here, and I'm got beads of sweat all over me, because this guy is up at the plate, and especially when he gets on base. When he stole home a couple of seasons ago here at AmFam Field, and I told you, I think I've told you guys this before. I said, my kid, and we born and raised here in Wisconsin, he still tells me for his birthday every year he wants the Ellie De La Cruz jersey, and when he comes back into the car after a game, after stealing a base, tells me, Dad, did you see me today? I'm like, Ellie De La Cruz on those base paths. I said, Brady, you're not supposed to be another team's player. You're the enemy.
Well, there's a jersey coming that kid's way. You just wait. We're going to make that happen.
That's kind of where I look at when it comes to this division matchup. I struggle to call it a rivalry, because for a rivalry to be a rivalry, you need to have a back and forth. And the Reds just really haven't provided the back and forth when it came to the Brewers, because the only positive memory that I can draw on is Ellie stealing home. Everything else is just failure after failure. I mean, we can talk about Stuart Fairchild missing a cutoff man. We can talk about, well, like 4 or 5 different guys getting thrown out between bases and things like that have cost the Reds a bunch of outs and a bunch of runs in this series the last couple of years. And so we're hoping that Terry Francona can kind of rein that in. It's a young roster. That was the stated goal. We've still seen some mistakes. We've still seen some lapses and some things this season so far. So we're hoping maybe that's get cleaned up a little bit. This is Terry Francona's biggest hurdle so far this season. It's a very, very young season. Plenty more hurdles to come, but this is definitely going to be the first order for him with this roster. We're going to give you our series predictions coming up next. But first, I want to tell you about the best way to build wealth, and that is with Monarch Money. You got to download the Monarch Money app or go to monarchmoney.com right now, because you can see every account that you have, whether it be a deposit account, a credit account, or an investment account, all in one place. You don't have to remember multiple logins and multiple passwords and worrying about this and worrying about that. You got one login, one spot. You see it all. Don't just survive financially, thrive with Monarch Money. It's one of those things too, like they've got these great different features on their website, and one of my favorite ones is setting spending alerts, so that way if I spend a little bit more than I put in the threshold, it gives me a little bit of notification. Hey, watch out, you just spent a little bit of extra money down at the brewery or something like that. Maybe a Taco Bell. I'm okay. Go to monarchmoney.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. And also, with baseball season going on, the best snack to snack along with any game is wonderful pistachios. And I got me a new flavor. Everydayers know I've been rolling with the chili roasted here recently, but I got jalapeno lime. I'm going to tell you, it's got a little bit of a fresh taste to it, a little bit of a kick, but it's got that awesome zip from the lime. It's all about the taste with wonderful pistachios, and they're shelled pistachios. Like I mentioned, chili roasted. They've also got salt roasted, and they've got salt and vinegar as well. Looking forward to trying that next. But I love these wonderful pistachios because they're packed with protein, the kind of snack that you can grab and not worry about the statistics on it bringing you down. These are the good kind of statistics. Quality contract metrics are way high with wonderful pistachios. So get snacking, get cracking, and go to wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more today, and check out your local grocer. They're all over the place because wonderful pistachios rock. Thanks for checking out today's Locked On Reds, Locked On Brewers crossover. We're previewing this 4-game set up in Milwaukee, the first 4 games of 13 for the season between the Reds and the Brew Crew. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying that the expectation is a split. And I got to feel like you're feeling the same way, Chuck. But I think the Reds need more than that. If we're going to feel good about this, if we're going to feel good about the season to this point, because there's a lot of folks, let me tell you, if you cover the Reds right now, if you're on radio, if you're on podcasts or whatever it is, feels like everybody's like going super negative. And while we're like in the middle, we're trying to be positive, but we're kind of in the middle because we have questions about Terry Francona over at Locked On Reds, and we have questions about Jake Fraley and some certain guys on the roster and things like that. We're still feeling positive about that, and that could be super controversial. So for that to stop happening, I feel like the Reds need to win 3 out of 4.
Yeah. Jeff, they got to go 3-1. In these 4 games, especially given the fact that they haven't scored a single freaking run in 18 innings.
Just give me a run.
They got to do it. I did want to tell Chuck, he was talking about Elly De La Cruz, and it's very, very easy to focus in on Elly when you look at this Reds team. And that's the beginning, the end of your look at these Cincinnati Reds. I'm going to tell you during this series, here's my prediction. Here's my player to watch. Here's my bold stance. Matt McLain will outperform Elly De La Cruz in this series, and he's going to hit at least 3 home runs in Milwaukee. Matt McLain is on a tear. He's seeing the ball well. He's hitting the ball hard. He's playing great defense, and he's already starting his campaign to be an all-star for the Reds this year. And I'm so glad to have him back. And I think by the end of this series, we're going to send 2 jerseys to your son, Chuck, one of Elly De La Cruz and one of Matt McLain.
Oh my gosh. Matt McLain is off to a good start. He's got 3 homers already this year, I believe, right? 3 homers. Yeah,
he does.
I think what I think the Brewers need to get a split in this series. And I said this on Locked On Brewers last night. The Brewers have a lot of injuries. They do. And you guys are going to be facing Elvin Rodriguez coming up on Saturday. And he was throwing batting practice on opening day. Elvin Rodriguez should not be on the major league level right now. He should not be, but he's out of necessity because the Brewers have 3 preferred starters on the injured list right now. Chad Patrick's going to start Sunday. He pitched 4 2/3 on Tuesday, and that was his major league debut. We'll see what he does for an encore. But the bullpen is taxed right now. Even tonight, Cortez coming off that lousy outing. I think we're just kind of holding our breath to see what happens there with him. And we don't even know who's pitching on Friday. because of the Savale injury. So the Brewers, to my knowledge, not even named him a replacement for him. So again, you're hitting the lower half of this rotation coming to town as well. And the lower half has not been real good for the Brewers the first time around. And it's a lot of TBAs so far.
I did see that the Reds will miss Freddie Peralta because he pitched that final game there in Kansas City. 8 innings. Of course, the Brewers are missing the Renaissance man in Hunter Green himself. He pitched amazing in the finale that the Reds still didn't score for him on. But no, I'm looking forward to see what the Reds pitching can continue to do, because they've done two things so far this season that I've been really impressed with. Number one is they've limited the walks. The starting pitching staff has been phenomenal, where last year the league average pitcher walked 8.5% of the batters they faced. Red starters are right around 5%. And that is a huge difference from years past. That's something that we have belabored quite a bit, especially for bullpen guys, but just pitching on the whole. I feel like Reds pitchers walked a lot of guys, and at least in the first 6 games of the season, that is something they can hang their hats on a bit. The other thing is they've been doing a good job of missing barrels. There's not been a whole lot of good quality contact made against Reds pitching. Even in Carson Spire's case, where he's playing fill-in for Andrew Abbott, his first start was 6 innings and 1 run, and he looked phenomenal. And I was really happy to see that performance. I'm hoping that he does that again, because he doesn't have a huge sample size against the Brewers these past couple of years, but he's thrown 11 innings, Chuck, and he's given up 14 runs. So something about the Brew Crew really likes it when Carson Spires is on the mound. I hope that changes coming up this weekend. But it's going to be very interesting, because I feel like even if the Reds bats get right and we start to feel better about them, I still don't think I'm seeing a whole lot of high scoring ball games.
Is there a guy who's pitching for you guys this weekend, both you guys, that when, like I said, Cortez and Rodriguez for the Brewers, that you just say, man, if we can get 5 innings out of this guy, or you're looking over the coffee table because you're worried about him. Who would it be this for?
No, the first time through the rotation has looked great. They brought in Brady Singer. He had a tremendous first start for the Reds, 7 innings. First Red to make a debut and go 7+ innings without
shutout ball. Yeah.
Throwing shutout ball since Tom Seaver. So we got Tom Seaver and Brady Singer in the same universe.
It was not the comp I had at all for him.
No, sure. Hunter Green's look. You won't see Hunter Green, but Nick Lodolo's look good. Singer's looked good. You've got Nick Martinez, who probably of that group struggled the most in their first time through, but he pitched 5 great innings. The wheels kind of came off as he got a little bit deeper in the ball game. But for us, I don't think it's a starting pitcher problem. It's more I hold my breath when we get into the bullpen, because I'm still not quite sure if the guys that we picked up, the changes they made to the bullpen, I'm not sure if they're as advertised. There has been some bumps so far, and some of that's been usage. Terry Francona made a mistake with Ian Jabot. We've just called it like it is. And then you've got guys like Taylor Rogers, who I thought were going to be, really useful additions to this bullpen, but thus far, the results have been lackluster. So I'm more worried once you get past our starting pitchers than I am really about the starters.
See, it's the bullpen that's the strength. It's the starting pitching for Milwaukee. If you could attack the starting pitching and get some early offense against them, I feel like the back end of the bullpen, even though a couple of those guys have struggled, like Piamps and Peguero, I think the back end of the bullpen is the strength of the Brewers. But if you can get into that starting pitching and maybe get some of that middle relief that the Brewers struggle with, I think that'd be a key for you guys going into this series.
It's one of my favorite things is early season ERA for relief pitchers. I think after his first outing, Ian Jabot's was 54. I think if you look at the Brewers right now, Joe Piamps is like 22 and a half. And it's funny to see those early season ERAs, but we know that's not who Piamps and Peguero are. They're going to get a lot better than that. But relief pitching is such a fickle thing. But I'm with Steve. Like, Taylor Rogers is the guy that surprises me the most, in that he's had 2 appearances and he hasn't gotten 3 outs in either appearance. So it's been a little bit concerning. I almost wonder if there's something else behind the scenes, because dude's had a nice career between the Twins and the Giants, and then the Reds got him for like next to nothing. And so
the Giants paid for him.
The Giants paid for him. So, like, instead of where we were when the Reds acquired him and said, oh, boy, we got, like, closer 1B here. Now there's maybe a little bit of caution with that take. And no Alexis Diaz either in this series. In fact, I was looking at the guys who had faced the Brewers the most over the last 2 seasons. You've got Alexis Diaz, who's on the injured list. And then you have Fernando Cruz, Lucas Sims, and Alex Young. None of those guys are on the roster. So we got a whole lot of new faces that you're going to see a lot more of in this season.
I think the Brewers faced Martinez last year, I want to say.
There's a couple of times that Martinez pitched against him.
Yeah, I think they did. I was asked this on a radio station here in Wisconsin the other day. They were asking me about the division race, and they said, well, let's face it, Chuck, it's going to be the Cubs, the Brewers, and he goes, the Reds are just garbage. And I go, wait. No, they're not just garbage. No, they're not. I said, I picked them to win the division last year. I was wrong on that. I still think this is going to be a 3-team race, guys. I really do. And even if both our teams are off to a 2-4 start, the Cubs are going to be there. They're bouncing back after a 1-4 start. I think they did. And I think you guys are going to certainly be there. I think you're going to turn around a few things. I just hope it's not this series. And I think Milwaukee, I still think it's going to be a 3-game. I think it is. The Reds, I know it's easy to get down on their teams early in the season, but the Reds are far, far from a garbage team. Not one bit.
Yeah, I'd say I'm concerned, but I think that I'm still bullish on them turning this around, Steve.
Yeah, I've not lost any bit of hope yet. Because you look at the Reds right now, and this is not our team. The best version of our team is still coming. Guys will be back off the injured list. This team's only going to get better. And then you look at our division. I think you're right, Chuck. Cubs, Reds, Brewers, Pittsburgh, and then there's no way that this is really who the St. Louis Cardinals are. The way that they're playing right now. I am still selling on the Cardinals. There's no way they're going to lead this division.
I did see, and before we close it, because I thought this was hilarious, I did see our friends over at FanDuel have an updated line on the NL Central. Cubs minus 125 to win the division. I think it's far too early to be putting anybody at minus odds, so that's hilarious.
Oh, wow. 125.
Minus 125, as if like you bet on them, you're not getting your same money. That's hilarious to me. But we're gonna show why, because I got a feeling these are gonna be some 4 good games of baseball up in Milwaukee. Looking forward to the series. Like I said, Chuck, you're gonna be down at the ballpark this weekend. We're gonna be watching on TV, but we're gonna be coming to you after the Friday game. Tim Daniel with the Locked On Reds postcast will be with you after every single game on the Reds side, and Brandon Snide, I think he started with the Brewers postcast, or
I don't know if he did. I don't know if he did one the other day. I think might be this weekend.
I think he should be as well. We've got so much. That's why we're locked on, man. We are your team every single day. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Reds and Locked On Brewers so that you get your fix every single day.